The Royal Hospital for Seamen in Greenwich was founded by King William III and Queen Mary in 1694. The main architect was Sir Christopher Wren, assisted by Thomas Ripley. The chapel, completed in 1745, took 39 years to build. Thomas Ripley's interior included galleries and an apse at the east end. Unfortunately, the chapel was gutted in 1779 by a fire that had begun in the adjacent tailor's shop. At the entrance is the vestibule that contains a number of statues and naval memorials. The Franklin Memorial honours Sir John Franklin and his crew, who lost their lives during the ill-fated expedition of 1845 in search of the Northwest Passage. Unlike the dome in the painted hall opposite, the vestibule has a relatively low ceiling. The interior, rebuilt after the fire, is a wonderful neoclassical masterpiece by James Athenian Stewart and William Newton. It contains rich plasterwork, a magnificent marble floor, and superb carpentry. Completed in 1789, the chapel is considered to be one of the finest 18th century interiors in existence. The altar consists of a semi-oval slab of marble supported by 6 cherubim made of code stone. American artist Benjamin West was commissioned in 1782 to paint the 25-foot-high altar canvas. St. Paul is preserved after surviving a shipwreck on the island of Malta. He is shown shaking into the fire the viper which had fastened onto his hand. Below is a group of seamen bringing ashore various articles from the wreck. The carved gilt frame was made by Richard Lawrence. The column capping and the figure were made from code stone. Cast in moulds at a factory in Lambeth, the stone was used extensively throughout the chapel. The columns were made of imitation marble known as scagliola. This exhibit shows how the mixture consisting of ground plaster, coloured pigments and animal glue were moulded into shape. At the west end of the chapel above the entrance is the organ. Installed in 1789 at a cost of £1,000, it is a fine example of the work of Samuel Green and is noted for its purity of tone and rich mixture stops. The curved ceiling of the chapel is a wonderful piece of craftsmanship. It was designed by the master plasterer John Papworth in a neoclassical design. At the centres are plaster rosettes. The restored bosses replaced the hanging chandeliers which were there until 1955. The colour scheme suggests the influence of Wedgwood. John Naval was responsible for the floor of black and white marble and contains many naval designs. The pattern along the pews represents a rope with a width matching the diameter of an anchor rope. The pulpit, one of the largest in existence, originally stood in front of the altar painting. It was then the top of a 3-decked structure. The top section was finally moved to its current position in 1952. It is the work of the joiners Lawrence and Arrow and constructed of oak, limewood and mahogany. The medallions surrounding it were made of code stone. Some moulds of the figures are still in existence. Between the windows above the gallery are 14 paintings on canvas of the apostles and evangelists. The artists included Biagio Rebecca and were completed by 1781. Behind the altar wall is a small memorial chapel used for private prayer. As a result of nearby bomb damage in 1943, most of the stained glass windows of the chapel were destroyed. Some of the memorial plaques which accompanied the original windows have been moved into this chapel. The effigy of Admiral of the Fleet Sir George Francis Seymour can also be seen here. After the closure of the Royal Hospital, the buildings including the chapel were acquired by the Naval College of Portsmouth in 1873 and became the Royal Naval College. It continued to be their place of worship until the Navy's departure in 1997. The whole interior was cleaned and restored in 1955 by the Ministry of Works. The chapel was then dedicated to St. Peter and St. Paul in recognition of their connections with water and the sea. The chapel continues today to be an active place of worship. Its superb acoustics make it a popular venue for concerts, as well as a beautiful place to visit.